Have you ever wondered, why do some people born with nothing, no money, no connections, no head start, still manage to build incredible wealth? And yet, others are handed every opportunity in the world, good education, stable family, decent income, and still find themselves struggling with money their entire lives? It's not luck, it's not your degree, and it's not how hard you work. It comes down to something far less visible than any of that: your mindset. Warren Buffett grew up in a normal Midwestern city. No Wall Street connections. He started buying stocks at age 11 with money saved from delivering newspapers. Today he's worth over $100 billion. Meanwhile, studies show 70% of lottery winners in America go broke within 5 years of winning. Someone hands you millions, and you still end up broke. It's not luck. It's not your degree. It's not how hard you work. It's psychology. Today we're going deep into the mindset differences between people who build real wealth and people who stay stuck. And I promise, some of this will make you uncomfortable, because you might recognize yourself in it. How can you change it? Let's get into it. Here's the first and most fundamental difference. People with a poor mindset see money as something to spend. When they get a paycheck, the first thought is, what can I buy? People with a rich mindset see money as a tool. Their first thought is, how can this money make more money? In 2021, the average American received a $1,400 stimulus check. Research showed that lower-income households spend most of it within days on electronics, clothing, eating out. Meanwhile, a survey by Betterment found that higher-income Americans were 3 times more likely to put that same check directly into investments. Same amount of money, completely different decision. Here's another example that hits even closer to home. Think about the average American worker making $50,000 a year. 2 people, same salary, same city, same job. Person A gets their paycheck every 2 weeks. First thing they do, upgrade their phone, grab dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe buy some new clothes. By the end of the month, they have maybe $200 left. They tell themselves they'll start saving when they make more money. Person B gets the same paycheck. First thing they do, automatically transfer $500 into a Roth IRA and $200 into an index fund. Then they live on what's left. No negotiation, no exceptions. 20 years later, Person A is still saying they'll start saving soon. Person B has quietly built a nest egg worth over $400,000 on the exact same salary. Psychologist Klontz calls this your money script, the subconscious beliefs about money you formed in childhood. If you grew up hearing, "we can't afford that," or "rich people are greedy," your brain got programmed to push money away without you even realizing it. The good news? That script can be rewritten. But first you must know it exists. Let me paint 2 pictures. Person A has $10,000 saved up. They're terrified of losing it, so they keep it in a savings account earning 0.5% interest. Feels safe, right? Person B has $10,000. They spend 6 months learning about index funds, put $7,000 into a diversified portfolio, keep $3,000 as emergency cash, and let compound interest do its thing. 20 years later, Person A has roughly $11,000. Person B, potentially over $45,000, without doing anything extra. The difference isn't intelligence. It's their relationship with risk. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Kahneman discovered something called loss aversion. Our brains feel the pain of losing $100 almost twice as intensely as the joy of gaining $100. This is why so many Americans say, "I don't invest because I'm scared of losing money," while inflation quietly eats away at their savings every single year. Here's a real story that illustrates this perfectly. During the 2008 financial crisis, millions of Americans panic sold their 401k investments at the bottom of the market, locking in massive losses. They were so terrified of losing more that they couldn't see the bigger picture. Meanwhile, investors like Warren Buffett did the opposite. He famously said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." While everyone was panicking, he was buying. By 2013, just 5 years later, the market had fully recovered. The people who panic sold lost everything. The people who stayed on the course, or bought more, came out ahead. Rich thinkers don't ignore risk. They calculate it. There's a massive difference between being reckless and being strategic. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This isn't just motivational poster talk. It's backed by hard data. Harvard tracked thousands of people over decades and found that social networks directly influence financial behavior. If your 5 closest friends are all living paycheck to paycheck, complaining about their boss, spending every weekend at the bar, statistically, you will too. Think about it this way. If you grew up in a neighborhood where nobody talked about stocks, nobody started businesses, nobody invested in real estate, how would you even know those were options? Take the story of Chris Gardner, the man the movie The Pursuit of Happiness is based on. He was homeless in San Francisco, sleeping in subway bathrooms with his young son. Zero money, zero connections, zero network. But he made one decision that changed everything. He placed himself in an environment where successful people operated. He pursued an unpaid internship at a stock brokerage firm, surrounded himself daily with people who thought differently about money, absorbed everything he could. That single environmental shift turned a homeless man into a multi-millionaire stockbroker. This is exactly why people like Jay-Z, Howard Schultz of Starbucks, and Oprah Winfrey all talk about the moment they intentionally changed their environment. They sought out mentors. They read books by people they wanted to become. They put themselves in rooms where bigger thinking was normal. You don't have to ditch your friends, but you do have to be intentional about who influences your thinking about money. This one is the most important, and the one people talk about the least. Before Elon Musk built Tesla into a trillion-dollar company, Tesla nearly went bankrupt 3 times. Before Howard Schultz built Starbucks into a global empire, he was rejected by 242 investors in a row. Before Sarah Blakely built Spanx into a billion-dollar brand, she spent years selling fax machines door to door, being told no every single day. But here's the story I love most. Colonel Sanders. Yes, KFC. Harlan Sanders was 65 years old, living off a $105 Social Security check, sleeping in his car, driving across America trying to sell his fried chicken recipe. He was rejected 1,009 times before someone finally said yes. 1,009 times. Most people quit after the first 3 rejections. People with a poor mindset treat failure as a full stop. I tried, it didn't work, I'm done. People with a rich mindset treat failure as data. That approach didn't work. What do I adjust next time? Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck calls this the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset people believe talent is born, not built. Growth mindset people believe that every skill, including financial intelligence, can be developed with the right effort. And here's the kicker. The mindset itself can be trained. It's not something you either have or you don't. Here's something that rarely gets talked about in personal finance videos. Wealthy people and struggling people often work the same number of hours, but they spend those hours completely differently. A 2019 study by researcher Thomas Corley, who spent 5 years studying the daily habits of millionaires, found some fascinating patterns. 88% of wealthy people read for self-education for at least 30 minutes every day. Only 2% of poor people did the same. 67% of wealthy people watch less than 1 hour of TV per day. Meanwhile, the average American watches over 4 hours of TV daily. Think about that. 4 hours a day. That's 1,460 hours per year, equivalent to 60 full days, spent watching TV instead of building skills, building a side income, or building investments. Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki puts it bluntly. The rich invest their time. The poor spend their time. And this goes beyond just reading. Look at how the wealthy spend their free time versus everyone else. The average American spends their weekend binge-watching Netflix, scrolling social media, and recovering from the work week. Meanwhile, people actively building wealth are spending that same weekend networking, learning new skills, working on a side project, or simply sitting down and reviewing their financial plan. Neither group has more hours in the day. The only difference is intention. This one might sound soft, but bear with me, because the science behind this is rock solid. Your internal dialogue, the voice inside your head, directly shapes your financial reality. People stuck in financial struggle tend to speak in permanent, universal language about money. I'm terrible with money. I'll never be able to afford that. People like me don't get rich. Notice the words, never, always, can't, people like me. These aren't just negative thoughts. They're identity statements. And when something becomes part of your identity, Your brain works overtime to make sure your behavior stays consistent with that identity. In other words, if you believe deep down that you're bad with money, your subconscious will make decisions that confirm that belief. You'll overspend. You'll avoid investing. You'll self-sabotage without even realizing it. Here's a real-world example. A 2018 study from Northwestern University followed a group of people going through financial hardship. The participants who used phrases like, "I'm going through a tough time financially," framing it as temporary, were significantly more likely to take positive financial action within 6 months. The ones who said, "I'm broke, I'm bad with money, this is just how it is," framing it as permanent identity, showed almost no improvement. Same circumstances, completely different outcomes, based entirely on how they talk to themselves. Wealthy people reframe constantly. Instead of "I can't afford this," they ask, "How can I afford this?" It seems like a tiny shift, but that question forces your brain into problem-solving mode instead of shutdown mode. Try it this week. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I can't afford it," pause. Replace it with, "How could I afford this if I really wanted to?" You'll be surprised what your brain comes up with. Here's the final and perhaps most underrated difference between rich and poor mindsets, and it comes down to time horizon. People with a poor mindset think in days and weeks. Their financial decisions are driven by what feels good right now. Should I buy this $1,200 iPhone or invest it? The poor mindset says, "I deserve it. I work hard. Why well?" People with a rich mindset think in decades. Every financial decision is filtered through one question. How will this decision affect me in 10, 20, or 30 years? Psychologists call this delayed gratification, and it may be the single biggest predictor of financial success ever studied. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment tested this in children. Kids were offered 1 marshmallow now, or 2 marshmallows if they could wait 15 minutes. The children who waited, who could delay gratification, went on to have higher SAT scores, better health outcomes, and yes, significantly higher net worth as adults. But here's where it gets interesting for adults. Economist Sindel Mullainathan at Harvard found something counterintuitive. Scarcity itself changes how your brain functions. When people are stressed about money, their cognitive bandwidth, their mental capacity for long-term thinking, shrinks. This is why financial stress can feel like a trap. The worse your financial situation, the harder it becomes to think long-term. And the more you think short-term, the worse your financial situation gets. It's a cycle. And the only way to break it is to consciously force long-term thinking even when every instinct is screaming at you to focus on today. One practical way wealthy Americans do this, they automate their future. They set up automatic transfers to retirement accounts, automatic investment contributions, automatic savings, so their future self is protected even when their present self wants to spend. Set it up once. Let the system do the work. Your future self will thank you. So, let's bring it all together. The gap between the wealthy and everyone else comes down to 7 mental differences. How they see money, a tool to grow, not just spend. How they handle risk, calculated moves, not blind fear. Who surround themselves with, people who pull them up. How they respond to failure, as feedback, not a final verdict. How they use their time, investing hours, not just spending them. How they talk to themselves, temporary setbacks, not permanent identity. How they think about time, decades, not just days. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear, and nobody wants to say. Most of us were never taught this. Schools don't teach it. Most parents don't know it. And by the time we figure it out, we've already spent years making decisions that work against us. But here's what gives me hope. Every single one of these mindsets is learnable. None of these is genetic. None of this is fixed. You are not your past financial decisions. The fact that you watched this entire video, that you're investing your time into understanding how your mind works, already puts you in a different category than most people. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. Which of these 7 mindsets do you want to work on first? I read every single comment and I'll reply. If this video gives you value, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. And if you want more content on the psychology of wealth and financial freedom, subscribe. I drop new videos every week. I'll see you in the next one.